Okay, the Lake House, Part 3. Now, this is 3 years later than after we'd gotten out of the Peace Corps. What we did was we went there to live. Uh, when you get out of Peace Corps, or you did, back then, they allowed for the fact that you might have trouble readjusting. And so they had something called a readjustment allowance, a lump of money that Joyce received hers and I received mine to help us to readjust to life in the United States after our Peace Corps experience. Well, I never readjusted. Joyce, we both were profoundly affected by our Peace Corps experience. Uh, we were battle worn to some extent, you might say, by that time. Uh, but I would have to say Joyce, she dealt with it better than I did. I never recovered, you might say. But one thing I was not going to do, I just couldn't do, was to go live in a city, get an apartment. Not after having lived with those Brazilians, poor people, simple people. So the best solution seemed to be to go to the lake house. It was empty in the winter. I would winterize it. It was at this time that I was uh, beginning to get the trade of a carpenter anyway. I was working as a carpenter and winterizing it. And it was practically impossible to winterize. It had a high ceiling uh, with a loft up above it. It had huge windows. I mean, it was beautiful. Huge plate glass windows, view of the lake, and no heating system, a fireplace. But, that was just for summer amusement. But anyway, we undertook it, and I did it. We put clear vinyl over the windows so you could still see that, and I installed a gas furnace in it. And there was a man who was a renter in Joyce's mother's house. He rented the downstairs now, and he came almost every day, drove up from Concord, basically Hopkinton, and to help us specifically. He was skilled. He had the skills, and I learned a lot from him. We fixed up the railing around the porch, um, and but anyway, and this actually, that blanket right there, as I recall, we had that hanging above to block off the loft, as part of the way to block off that loft up there to try to keep the heat down there. Um, oh, and at one point, the gas furnace wasn't enough. I think that's when I got to really hate the idea of listening to your heating system kick in, kick off, kick in, kick off. And I was always wondering on those coldest of nights, would it kick off at all? Or was it just going to be running all out all night? And I don't think it ever quite did that. But we got a wood burner, a right-way stove, and it was a wonderful, wonderful stove. We installed it, ran the flue into the chimney and up through, and that kind of made it possible. Now, during that time, we had 5 marmosets, little monkeys about this big. I've talked about them before too, cotton-eared marmosets. Then they could stay warm because they'd have a couple light bulbs and they could always get near the light bulbs. And I had a dog, or we had a dog named McGee. McGee was the name of my best man at that wedding. And I didn't mention that the girl that he met and married was Joyce's maid of honor. So my best man and the maid of honor met and then married as a result of that wedding. Uh, that winter was hard. It was New Year's Eve, I think, that the plumbing froze. The water froze. Now, the water supply for that lake house was from the lake itself. There was an inlet out in the lake, and the water was pumped up through into the house, and that was our drinking water right from the lake. But plumbers came, and they found that if they just would let the pump run and run and run, it unblocked itself. They said, well, sometimes that'll happen if you've just got a little bit of a pinhole. It'll unfreeze. So we were real lucky there. Another thing I remember, Joyce will remember this too, there was a big fat raccoon that would come every night. You could set your clock by it almost. He'd come up onto the porch and come to the door, and I'd go out there and I'd feed him a banana. I don't know if it was a male or a female. Somehow I think it was a female. But I would hand her the banana, and for a while she'd eat the banana right out of my hand, and then I'd give it to her, and then she'd go on her way. But anyway, we made it through that. Oh, and it was cut short a little bit because an opportunity came to do something similar to Peace Corps. We got an offer to try to set up a cooperative or something like we had done in Brazil, in Venezuela, on the island of Margarita, you'd say in English, Margarita. And we took it. We went for that. And during that time, our marmosets had a semester at St. Paul's School because the teacher there, he a biology teacher, I think, he had it set up and he kept them. And our dog, I can't remember who it was that kept our dog, which galls me. My younger sister Barbie would, she'd probably know. And so we went to Venezuela, changed our Portuguese into Spanish, destroying our Portuguese. So we couldn't really speak either one that well after that. But anyway, that was the time that we actually lived there. We had 2 cars. Joyce at that time was commuting to Manchester, trying to finish her training to be an occupational therapist, which she did. She did almost manage to finish that. And the best story I have, and the reason I'm telling this story, has to do with that winter when we were on Lake Sunapee at the lake house. But I'll tell that in a 4th and final part. Bye for now.